Well, if you do that, I just got to say, if you're going to do that, if you're going to take the faith out of this, then I'm out.
Wow.
I'm going to go home because this is not what I signed up for.
I'm Andy Erwin, and this is the Storytellers. Coming up on this edition of the Storytellers, we go back to where it all started. The very first episode was Dennis Quaid. And so because of I Can Only Imagine 2, we wanted to revisit his story, but from the standpoint of his faith journey. And it's an amazing one. I've had a front row seat to it. And so you're in for a real treat as we kind of go down memory lane with one of the people that is a dear friend to the show and to Kingdom. So you know him from The Parent Trap, The Rookie, and so many other iconic movies, and obviously the one that started it all for us, I Can Only Imagine. Would you please welcome my guest, Dennis Quaid? So Dennis Quaid, back on the Storytellers. In honor of sequels, we're having a second go at this, but you don't remember the first one.
It's a blur. COVID's a blur.
Yeah.
You say I was the first.
You're like, guys, I've been on this before?
Yeah,
I was like, it was meaningful for me. But it's good to have you back on, man. I'm glad to be. We're here promoting I Can Only Imagine 2. It's been amazing.
But I do remember we've had so many meaningful talks.
Okay. Good.
I do.
Good save.
That's actually genuine. What I just said.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's speaking of one of those, like with this one, since we've already kind of covered a lot of your career, I just wanted to talk a little bit about more the personal side about your faith, and it's been really cool to be on that journey with you. I think because you've had such a momentous journey in that since we did the first movie, and I think it's been really cool to see that. I just want to kind of let the audience in on that a little bit. And I think you talk about one of those meaningful conversations. I don't know if you remember this one, but when we were promoting Imagine the first time, we went to New York together, and so you were doing all the Today Show and all that type of stuff,
right?
And so one of my main jobs was to carry your bulldog Peaches around town. Which is not a light load.
No, she's a miniature bulldog.
Yeah. I would take the miniature out of it, but one night we sat down and we talked about faith at dinner, and you told me a little bit about your story, and you just said that you had grown up in the church, but had gone on this journey of exploring all the different worlds, religions, and kind of had gotten disillusioned, but you couldn't help but come back to the red letters of the Bible, and it's what kept drawing you back.
Right, the words of Jesus.
The words
of
red
Jesus. Letters of the New Testament.
Right.
And
so I just want to talk a little bit about that. Like, so you grew up in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
And grew up in the church.
I grew up in Houston, Texas, in a little suburb called Bel Air. And it was, during the 50s and 60s, I guess it was my childhood. And that was an incredible time to grow up as far as being an American kid.
Yeah.
You could leave the house and not come home till dark. It was the baby boom too. I mean, there was 9 or 10 kids on my block that we were within 9 months of each other.
Wow.
And had a gang basically. And it was a beautiful way to grow up. My elementary school was 3 blocks away, walking distance, and there was a shopping center they had just finished, Meyerland, and we go over there, and the suburbs are kind of the edge of Houston at that time, and so you could explore like on your bicycles all these trails, and feeling of adventure. And we were going to have jetpacks, by the time we were 21. And our church, Bel Air First Baptist, was less than a mile away. And remember going to Sunday school.
I can't imagine.
I remember my first day in Sunday school. In fact. Yeah.
What was it? Was like?
Well, I remember we learned Jesus loves me.
Huh.
That was probably the first.
I'm imagining you and Randy Quaid in a Sunday school room learning.
Well, he was in a different one than me.
Okay, it's a different one. Okay.
Yeah, because he's older.
You got it.
He wasn't going to get stuck with me. I guess I was in, the little kids.
Okay, got it.
You go to Sunday school, and then you go to, join your parents in the pew, and you're short, and so you're basically looking at the back of the pew in front of you, and kind of moving around your seat, it seems very long.
Yeah.
Even though, it's an hour, a sermon usually, in the regular service, it seems very long to a kid.
Yeah.
Don't you remember that back when time was just like so expanded?
Yeah.
Now it's so short.
I know. It speeds up.
Yeah.
It absolutely speeds up.
But yeah, but I really love being there. And I was like 9, and my brother's assistant Little League baseball coach came to the house to talk to Randy about getting baptized.
Huh.
And I was watching TV like in the adjacent room, and I was listening. And so I made a decision that I was going to get baptized too. So we got baptized together. I was 9. I think he was almost 13.
Huh.
And I remember that experience very well. A lot of old ladies who really pinched my cheek over that one and stuff. But, it felt very different too. I do remember that. And then, but then I started to get kind of disillusioned with the church. I came to Sunday school and I didn't have my quarter offering or whatever, and I got dressed up and down for it. And I don't know, kind of just hit me the wrong way. And it was, it was me as much as my perceived sort of hypocrisy of the church in my kind of 10, 11, 12-year-old mind.
And did that continue as you got into teenage years, like that? Yeah, I've heard you rail that you were back then. It was
I started to see church as kind of a Boy Scout merit system or something that but because I could feel God inside me. I had the experience of really feeling His presence.
Yeah,
but I don't know. The church made me feel like I was bad. There was a lot of fire and brimstone sermons back then.
Yeah.
Which, kind of, to tell you the truth, I appreciate now. Back then, it was kind of like a scare.
Yeah.
I got to be a teenager. I quit going to church. And then, I got into like high school and his friends. It was, late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
We were very much into, I guess, what would you call that?
Like
humanitarianism,
Okay, yeah.
Back then and stuff. Started smoking pot at 16.
Yeah.
Kind of did drama. Kind of did we were trying to expand our minds.
Yeah. And that was big back then, like in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, there was like transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
And if you forgot your mantra, you were messed up with that. Anyway, I started, I found myself meditating. I actually kind of found myself going into having very intense experiences with God, where I myself would just drop away.
Yeah,
it was almost like I would pass out and being in kind of an ecstasy of oneness or whatever with God, and that also included Jesus at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very kind of torn because I felt like you had to it was either one or the other, and you can't have both or whatever. And then there's the whole thing about with the Bible too. And then we'll talk a little more. The whole thing about the Bible, about how to put that all together, because my mother, who was like the biggest probably influence in my life as far as spiritual goes, she believes that the world is 5,000 years old. And didn't. What about the dinosaurs? Well, they never were. But and my mother's a very intelligent woman, by the way.
Yeah.
But she believes in that literal interpretation of it.
And I think the interesting thing is all the questions. And I think a lot of times Christians are afraid of questions. And I think a lot of times when you ask the questions, you find that God allows you to find the truth. I think the other thing that's interesting, you're talking about just the experimentation going on. like when we told the Jesus Revolution story, a lot of that was the case in the Jesus Revolution, where a lot of these kids that were hippies had been told, to kind of unlock their mind, and they'd used a lot of LSD.
Right.
But in the midst of when the hippie movement kind of finally bottomed out, they had this legitimate kind of encounter with God. Half of them were still tripping on LSD, and God kind of met them where they were at, and that's where a lot of that movement kind of spawned out of.
Yeah.
Is just in that asking those pure questions and trying to find the truth. For you, like then you put Hollywood on top of all that, and you have this, some breakout moments like with The Right Stuff, different things like that. What did success do to your journey, and how did that complicate things for you?
I don't think it complicated things as far as my faith goes, because that was always there. But I started to really engage in trying to make it in this world, which we all do.
Right.
And we encourage our kids to do, to have
Right.
some sort of ambition,
Right.
Directed ambition. And without being a sellout or whatever. And, I back then in the 70s, I got into cocaine and stuff.
Yeah.
Which was fun, and then became fun with problems, and then eventually problems, of course, just like with any addiction. I had a great church out in LA when I got out there. Jess Moody, who actually dated my mom when they were like kids.
Wow.
Yeah, from Florida. Great pastor, fantastic pastor. And the assistant pastor was John Myrick, who is still a friend of mine to this day. We've been around the world together. And, I always believed that, in the midst of doing all that stuff, that it's not good for you, that, that Christians supposedly didn't do and stuff like that. You had to give up in order to be a Christian. I was still considered myself to be a Christian.
And I think that we talked about that actually in New York that night, because I think in the soul and the fabric of every human being is this God-shaped hole. And it's that idea of wanting to understand where they come from, who's their creator, and how do I get to that creator.
Yes.
And I think Christianity and I differentiate between religion and Christianity and true Christianity. Like religion puts a bunch of rules on you on how to jump through these hoops in order to not to go to hell. Christianity at its core is really about redemption.
Yes.
And redemption, and the thing that I love about when you get down to the heart of what Jesus really was about, it was about God's roadmap for him to come to us and for him to help us define redemption. And so it really comes down to like the red letters, like you said, those words of Jesus.
Right.
What is that really about? It's really about redemption. So, but I do think all those things point towards people trying to wrestle and understand.
Wrestling is right. That's what Israel, the definition.
Yeah.
Wrestling. Wrestle with God.
Wrestle with God.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Right. But I read the Bible when I was cover to cover when I was 19, and then I read going around the world and stuff. I read the Dhammapada, I read the Bhagavad Gita, I read the Quran. Then when I gave up cocaine, and went to cocaine school, which is what I call it, in 1990. When I got out of cocaine school, I did two things. I started playing golf the day I got out.
Yep. You still play a little bit of golf?
Only once a day.
Uh-huh.
And I read the Bible again, cover to cover. And I was, 36? And this time it was a completely different experience.
Uh-huh.
That's the way it is. As you get older and stuff, every time you read it, it's a different experience because you're reading it from a different point of view.
Yeah.
And your journey. And that's when the red words of Jesus really struck me. And I realized what it had been all along was to have a personal relationship.
I love that.
With Jesus Christ.
I love that.
Something my mother had said, actually, that went in one ear and out the other.
Uh-huh.
because I didn't want to listen to her, but it struck me. And it's exactly what it is. You know, and what it was with Eastern religions and stuff like that is it's more philosophical.
Yeah.
And experiential, yes, experiential. But this was somebody that you could really talk to and tell give them all your sorrows, all your pain, give them all your everything that was real about living. And I also realized that it was heaven, besides being a place where we go. But Jesus came here as much to teach us about how to have heaven here on earth.
Yeah.
As in the meantime.
Yep. I mean,
in spite of all the pain and suffering and everything that was around us.
I mean, that's what he said. He said, "I came to give him life and give him life abundantly."
Yeah, the kingdom of God is spread out upon the earth, and men do not see it.
Right. Yep. So for you, in that journey, and as you came back to that, and then I've walked through some of that journey with you. The thing that was exciting to me was, you know, and you've been very, you know, even the article that you asked me to be a part of with, I think it was the Washington Times or Washington Post, one of those. You talked a lot about just the failures that you've had over the years with, you know, from, you know, moments that you really messed up in marriage or you've messed up with drugs, all those things. But you found this beautiful redemption. And I remember when you met your wife, Laura, and I think I got invited to a birthday party at your house that was the most eclectic gathering of
that
people.
Was fun. Yeah, that was
when you
fun.
have
Laura put that all together.
When you have Kid Rock and ZZ Top doing karaoke in your living room, it was pretty interesting. I loved it. I had fun
doing karaoke. That was fun.
That was fun. But you came up and you had the biggest smile on your face, and you just really felt at peace. It seemed like. And you showed me I think your wedding ring or hers had 1 Corinthians 13 on it. Said you read through the Bible again, and it just really felt like your relationship with God had really continued to grow, and that Laura seemed to be a big part of that. What has been the
she has we have God in our relationship.
Yeah,
I mean, we decided that we do that early on.
Yeah,
and I don't, I wasn't planning on ever getting married again, and I was, God brought her into my life. I really, truly believe that, and it's, and we put God in the when we got married, we put God in the ceremony. And He's a part of the relationship. There's 3 in this relationship.
Wow,
and because you can't do it. People can't do it because you start making your God the other person.
Yeah. That's well said.
And they're not equipped.
Yeah, no.
And
nobody is.
No, nobody's equipped for that. And so you let God run the show. And it really is it's a lot smoother.
Yeah. Yeah. And you picked a good one. Like, Laura's a good woman.
She's fantastic. Yeah. And say she's much wiser than me, and she runs the show. But I have the illusion that I'm the leader in the relationship,
which is part of her wisdom.
But she really runs the show.
Yeah. I know we don't like to define it with terms or whatever, but this resurgence of faith in film and entertainment has been a big part of that because of Soul Surfer, and then because of Imagine and some of the other things that you've done. You were one of the first mainstream actors to say, no, these kind of stories have value. And it started before Imagine. It started with Soul Surfer and some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
What was it that
Soul Surfer? I guess it really started with that.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And I had heard on set, even like, because as the movie was trying to be made, whatever forces or powers that be were trying to strip out a lot of the specificity of the faith in the story, and it was really important to the Hamilton family that's not in.
Right.
I heard you were one of the ones that stood your ground and said,
we were doing
no.
we were doing the movie, and we all got there, and we all knew what it was going to be about, and we were doing a read through of it like days before we're going to start shooting. And the Hamilton family is there too, and the producer got up, or the studio rep or something, and said, we decided we were really having a tough time, and with our research, survey group and stuff, that they really kind of feel like we want to take the faith element. A lot of people feel uncomfortable with it, and I think we're going to alienate a lot of our audience. We want them to go see this, and the Hamiltons are there. And I said, well, if you do that, I just got to say, if you're going to do that, if you're going to take the faith out of this, then I'm out.
Wow.
I'm going to go home because this is not what I signed up for. The Hamiltons, this is their story.
Right.
It's Bethany's story, and it's like you can't tell her story and not tell the story of her faith, because that's part of their fabric. That's who they are.
Right.
And if then I'm out if you're going to do that.
And the Hamilton family's we're close friends with them, Bethany and Noah and the whole family, and they still talk about what a powerful moment that was for them, because they didn't know how the studio system worked. They just knew this doesn't reflect our lives, and you standing your ground really, I think, was a pivotal moment in the formation of faith film, because you were the first actor of note to really say, no, we're going to respect the audience, we're going to respect their experience, and we're going to make it authentic to what they went through. And that was a big moment, I feel.
Well, what it was for me is, I guess that's the first time that I've actually consciously brought my own faith into my career.
Right.
Like that. I always felt it. I tell you the truth, I was really kind of embarrassed to talk about my faith.
Really?
Yeah. In a public way.
Huh.
In a public way, and I don't know if that's, whether I thought maybe the leftover for not being cool, or
fear of ramifications, what it would do for your career, or no?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It was really kind of felt kind of embarrassed about it.
And what changed that? Because you've become very vocal.
What changed that was that personal relationship. Once it became a personal relationship, and then I kind of felt like I'm gonna stand up for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can't deny him. I guess it was like that same thing about like with Peter when he was sitting, because I bet it was the same kind of feeling.
Yeah.
When Peter was there, when they took him in, he said, "Hey, I saw you with him." Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know him.
Yeah.
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 If that same kind of it's fear.
Yep.
Fear of what? I don't know. That'd be the same fear I have when I stand over a golf ball. It's not going to kill me, but
you face that fear daily.
But it's fear, that comes up for some reason or another. And I guess that's when I decided, well, I'm just going to go all in. I'm just going to take a chance if it means that I don't get the cool roles anymore. I don't care. I don't care. This is so much more important, I think, and it's all for my life, and also for it's important to spread around.
Yeah. Well, you've talked.
It really is.
You've talked about that.
The good news
that you felt like there's been kind of a spiritual awakening happening within the world in recent years.
It started in COVID.
Yeah, you think so?
I think it really started in COVID. Up until COVID, church attendance, for one thing, has been going down steadily since
Yeah.
after World War II.
Right.
And I think COVID was, for one thing, people couldn't go to work, they couldn't go to school, they couldn't, they had to really kind of look inward, and they had to spend time with their family, and they really had to question. There's a lot of death around, and people had to question their lives, and really kind of face to face with yourself and with God, laying in the dark.
Right.
And I think that caused us, that's, spiritual revolutions aren't pretty. They start out, but that's the beginnings of them. And, spiritual, church attendance is up.
Yeah.
Like way up from what it has been.
You talk about like
This generation, my kids' generation,
there's been a resurgence in
around.
the under 25 crowd.
Right.
100%. It's been a hunger for something concrete, something to believe in, and which has been really, really interesting.
Something to experience.
Yeah.
They're looking for experience.
Yeah.
It's the experience of God
Right.
in your life.
Right.
That's the faith,
Yeah.
the hook. You feel him.
Yeah.
Feel him working in your life.
Well, and you probably learned this in cocaine school, but in that 12-step idea, because I've done a lot of recovery myself, is that idea that God is an acronym for God is a gift of desperation, and you talk about it not starting pretty, and that it has to come to a place of need, and I think that desperation in recent times as people's looking outside of themselves.
It's like the military, man. They have to tear you down. It's like boot camp. You have to be kind of torn down. Or at least I did. Not everybody, but it's that experience of God, and I think really what God really wants, what Jesus really wants most for us, what we had in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
And what it was, I was started, looking for outside of church and, Eastern medicine that was always there all along, which was to experience God's joy, which permeates his creation.
Right. Yep. And I think with the stories that we've told together over the years, you talk about like the amount of people that will stop you in the airport to talk about I Can Only Imagine. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why do you think it registers? I mean, out of all your body of work, you've done some iconic roles. Why does I Can Only Imagine the one that people stop you for, do you think?
It's almost in secret the way they come up to me about it. It's that same reason I think why I was kind of embarrassed to talk about my faith or whatever. It's hard for people just to bring it up in public, with people that they don't know, but they feel like they know me.
Right.
So they can, so they come in like whispers about it. That's how I know it really had a big effect on them.
Yeah.
A lot of them a lot of people who were victims of abuse themselves.
Yeah.
And a family member as well. But mostly it's a question of faith. They find actually inspiration in Arthur.
Yeah.
I found inspiration in Arthur. That we all have that feeling of we're not worthy. Mm-hmm. And redemption comes from the word redeemed, which means for free. So you're getting something for free that you don't deserve. You don't even have to pay for it. Somebody else paid for you. And that was Jesus.
I love that. And I think that is, at its core, our films and what we've tried to do. And I think what's made faith film continue to find its voice is the idea of really embracing the simple idea of redemption, of that free gift.
Yeah.
And it's an invitation to people to find hope. And I think that's the beauty of it. What made you sign on to do a sequel 8 years later with us?
Because of you. I do. I want to be in every one of your movies. Just gonna say it. But I keep saying it, so I guess it'll happen.
It's going to happen, man. It's going
Otherwise,
to happen.
you're gonna be really
I
embarrassed.
always send you a script. I just like read the script, pick out whoever you want, and I don't care what it is. Just pick out the role. And
Within reason.
Within, it's an 18-year-old kid. We'll do CGI. It's fine. But no, this feeling is very mutual. And I think, the exciting thing about this film was to go back 8 years later, and when we filmed your scene, and we brought you in the last day of filming, and seeing you and John Michael in that set together, I got tears in my eyes because it was just a chance to go back and kind of put the last little touches on Arthur's redemption story.
Yeah,
to give him that beautiful memory.
It needed it. It really did.
Yeah,
it needed it. I didn't realize that even because we just created that kind of we had a fire, and we had that, and we had a few words of dialogue, but it's always about the subtext, isn't it? And that came out of everything that had gone before, I guess.
Yeah, it was a special moment. Can't wait for audiences to see it. I'm really proud of you.
Same.
You're going to be in every one of my movies, so you're stuck with me until you get
fantastic. You heard it right here.
Sign the contract. Yeah. Well, Dennis Quaid, you're a legend, and you're a good friend, and love you dearly.
Love you too, my friend. Thank you, Andy.
So that's it. That's our show. I want to thank my guest, Dennis. Dennis Quaid is one of those iconic actors that I think everybody sees, and they see a face that they trust. And he's made a whole brand on being America's dad. And so for us to develop the I Can Only Imagine franchise on the back of a man like that has been amazing. But specifically, I just loved hearing the redemptive story and his journey to coming back to his roots, and that idea of coming back to the red letters of Jesus. And I have seen it happen firsthand in the power of the gospel, just transforming all of our lives. And there's just something so powerful about what he's lived. And I think at Kingdom, what we really kind of aspire to do is tell those stories of redemption and those ways it connects to our real life. And I think redemption is the most powerful concept in the universe. It's the thing that I think we leverage all of our brand on top of, is to find those stories about a changed life. And that's really the story of I Can Only Imagine. I Can Only Imagine was the story of a father in Arthur that Bart said about his dad. If the gospel can change that dude, it can change anyone. And that's why Dennis said yes to this story. It's why it really made an impact on him personally, and why it's impacted so many others, and the reason why people stop him in the airport to talk about what that movie has done for their lives. So just want to thank Dennis for going deeper and having a second round with us. And it was such a special time to sit down with our friend. So that's our show. Look forward to kind of continuing this season as we look more into the stories from the set of I Can Only Imagine 2 and the cast that you love and some new faces you get to meet. So stay tuned for more stories to come on the next episode of The Storytellers.
The Storytellers is a Kingdom Story Company production. It is produced by Nick Carey and Beecher Proch with production assistance from Ben and Justin Bailey. Our executive producers are Brandon Gregory and Joshua Walsh. Social media for the show is run by the Troops and Allies team. Our music is Twisted Rooster by Tommy Prophet. Special thanks to our entire team at Kingdom Story Company. To make sure you never miss out on any of our exciting guests, subscribe to The Storytellers on YouTube at Kingdom Story Company or wherever you listen to podcasts. For exclusive first looks at our upcoming films, behind-the-scenes content, and invitations to advanced screenings, join the conversation as a Kingdom Insider at kingdomstorycompany.com. As always, thanks for joining Andrew Erwin and his friends on The Storytellers.